Well. What a turn of events. If you remember just over a year ago, I released a video focusing on the Sonic fan game Sonic Omens, and how not only did they put every Sonic fan game at risk through the promotion of a Patreon page being used to profit off the game, but also the creator being an asshole in general. The response to said video was very mixed. It's not exactly a black and white issue, so there were some who agreed with me, some who didn't, and after about a week or so, everything quieted down. That was until last week when the full game was released. It was so bizarre coming onto Twitter that day to see everybody bashing the thing, with one or two idiots in the mix trying to call the behavior toxic. You guys want to see toxic? Then stick around, because unbeknownst to me, there was a lot more going on behind the scenes with Sonic Omens. There was a massive Google Doc made titled Ouroboros Downfall that goes into detail about all the stuff that had gone down with its development, including the creator admitting to creating it out of spite. I think I may have played a part in that. It simply being a poorly designed buggy mess, and on top of that, some seriously messed up stuff like pedophilia allegations. So today I'm going to be going over the Sonic Omens Controversy, mostly covering the topics of the game's quality itself, and more importantly, the Google Doc, which will be in the description if you want to read it yourself. But if you want a rundown of my previous video to get you up to speed, I'll give a quick recap. So back in 2020, a brand new Sonic fan game popped up, creatively called Sonic 2020, with everybody and their grandmother praising it, claiming it to be just as good, if not better than any official Sonic product that Sega's made in a long time. Issues arose, however, when folks started noticing that the creator had a Patreon page, directly profiting from the project, with tiers like, "If we reach this much money, I'll work on this shadow level," which some people took issue with, as if Sega caught onto this and didn't like that this game was infringing on their primary market, it could result in them being a lot more strict with the concept of fan games in general, being more like Nintendo and cracking down on them to protect their IP. After this, it resulted in Bolt losing a majority of his patrons, and things stayed silent until 2021, where the game resurfaced as Sonic Omens and everybody somehow collectively forgot that it was the same thing as Sonic 2020 and began praising it again. After this, the cycle repeats, with people being made aware of their actions, with Bolt trying to disguise his Patreon by claiming it was for his studio that made games aside from Sonic, but then that was proven to be untrue, and folks got mad again, and then things once again went silent. And that leaves us with the current situation. The full game is out and everybody is laughing at it. Mostly for the Patreon stuff, but also because the game... it fucking sucks. The after credit scene is literally Sonic standing over the grave of Chris Thorndike. Was I supposed to be tearing up here? So to get it out of the way before touching on the controversy, let's quickly touch on the full game, and see if it's an improvement over the original release. It's not. Sonic Omens is split up into 7 chapters, and for the most part the first 4 remain untouched from when I last talked about it. I stand by the fact that the intro to the game is a wonderful idea, with Sonic leaving Tails' workshop and running down a narrow forest with a town surrounding you, only to jump off a cliff into the horizon where the characters conveniently meet up for the plot to kick off. I always enjoyed Sonic games that had more of a prologue before throwing you into the main story. That's about where the compliments end, however, as after a pretty decent opening level it does a good job at keeping the flow going, and despite having another 1 or 2 that actually aren't that bad, you're met with an influx of bosses and vehicles and levels that go on for an eternity with finicky, hard-to-control platforming, mainly due to the fact that the game is using a pre-existing fan engine, the Infinity Engine. See, I think a lot of the praise that Omens will get is mainly down to the engine it's running on, being created by a guy called Oban who initially was just doing it as a development project, not even really liking Sonic all that much. But after he lost interest in it, it was picked up by a guy known as the FizzWiz, who was aiming to further develop it under the name of Infinity Plus, with Omens using the original Sonic Infinity engine. It's open source, meaning anyone is allowed to use it, which means the people behind Omens didn't have to do anything involving the feel of Sonic, meaning that those few fun boost stages are elevated greatly by the great work done by Oban and not Aurora Borealis Studios.
Aurora Borealis!
Also, I thought it'd be fun to mention that the Omens team actually took certain things from the Infinity Plus engine, like the Egg Flapper model, without the permission of the creators and didn't credit them until asked to do so, you know, that's fun. But because the Omens team are just taking a pre-existing engine and building a game around it, it comes off like they don't truly understand what sort of game doesn't work with that. And tediously climbing a tree on small floating platforms is not fun or engaging in the slightest, even if there was an attempt to remedy that by making it more automated. Same with the boss fights that take an eternity to beat. They even have a few new bosses in here too, like Maria Robotnik. I mean, sure, fighting dead children. Who wouldn't want to do that in a Sonic game? And all of this is topped off with the most fucking melodramatic story ever that puts Sonic 06 to shame. The voice acting is terrible and all the characters talk super seriously all the time. Especially Shadow. They really want to present him as cool, but it comes off as so try-hard. There are way too many hilarious moments in this story to count. There's the totally epic badass villain, the Exiled, where it suddenly starts adapting shit from Sonic X like the Metarex, Chris Thorndike looking like Bloody Sora from Kingdom Hearts, and my absolute favorite being the finale where Sonic turns super and exclaims, "Consider this your bad omen!" What does that even mean? Then there's just minor shit I find really funny, like simple grammar mistakes, such as using the wrong there and whatnot, but I'm aware these are just nitpicks due to them not speaking English. Realistically, none of this matters. I see a lot of arguments being made that folks should just ignore the controversies and treat the game as its own thing, but even doing that, the game fucking sucks. It just so happens that there's a whole other can of worms to open regarding its development. So let's finally get into it. To start, it was found out that unsurprisingly, despite their best efforts to try and hide the fact that they want to profit off the game, people not only find out about a Russian social media site where the team allows donations to be made, not only do they run ads on their Game Jolt page which also earns them advertising money, but that they also have another Patreon-esque account on a site called Boosty, which locks Sonic Omens behind a paywall. And I just found out recently that they have a QR code present in one of the levels in the game, and if you scan it, it fucking leads to their Patreon page. Like, how desperate can you be? Why they think anyone in their right mind would pay for a game that is literally fucking free, I have no idea. But it shows that the creators definitely want to see some profit for their game. And I can assure you that if this stopped this, nobody would have continued shitting on the game. I believe I recall Sonic Smackdown did a similar thing at one point, but instead of kicking their feet and crying, they took down the page and now people have no issues praising and promoting that fan game. But time and time again, the Omens team show that they want to make money off this. I see the argument being made about other fan-funded projects such as the Sonic SAT-AM Season 3, but also have made it very clear that none of the money they're being given is going to be pocketed, with 100% of it going to production with paying animators and such. And given the fact that Omens is, you know, completed, I highly doubt that none of this was simply going to be put in Bolt's piggy bank. There was some other stuff too regarding this, mainly related to a How to Train Your Dragon fan game they were also making, but the general point here is that there was intent to profit off the game, which the creators have continuously denied. Even more interestingly though is the fact that, much like the Flapper model, there are some aspects of the game that are completely stolen without credit, such as the composer for the game, John Rice, straight up, I'm not joking, stealing a song from fucking Cars 2 the video game, changing the instruments and trying to pass it off as their own work. I'd show you what I'm talking about, but unfortunately the stand-up gent has a habit of taking down videos that uses music, despite it not even really being his music. But of course that couldn't be the only shady thing done by the team. I also found out that John Rise doesn't like me very much. He called me Trash Dash, which is very upsetting. But how about the voice actor for Shadow telling Bolt that they needed a new mic, which would arrive in 2 days, and instead of just, you know, waiting the 2 days, they replaced the voice actor without telling them, which is fine if you want to get someone new, but at least have a reason to do so other than having to wait a couple days. Because if the trade-off is this,
Rouge, I don't feel the presence of an emerald inside this temple. Doctor has beaten us to it.
Yeah, I would have just fucking waited. Not to mention the current voice of Shadow encourages the taking down of YouTube reviews that talk poorly on the game, claiming it as a trump card. Some real nice folks working on this thing, I tell you what. Such as one of the team members, JOH, who has continued to be extremely aggressive towards anyone who doesn't praise it as God's gift to humanity. Doing such things as making big long threads defending Bolt and claiming they did nothing wrong, such as the Patreon not containing any beta builds of the game. But then, he directly contradicts himself by saying they did? Then he goes and throws other projects like SAT-AM Season 3 under the bus, despite it clearly being a false equivalency. As we all know, Sega is a game company, not an animation studio. They're way more likely to be pissed about a fan game rather than a fan animation. They even go as far as to check for users who don't like their game, see what groups they're in on social media, then go and block every single member from said group. The skin on these creators might just be the thinnest I have ever seen. And when they're not trying to silence any kind of criticism, they're desperately recruiting their detractors, such as a Russian YouTuber making a negative review of the game, then suddenly after being brought onto the project as the voice of Eggman himself, he makes a video claiming that he suddenly likes it, basically turning an enemy into a friend. They couldn't keep this facade up for long, however, as on their stream playing through the full game, they get so incredibly frustrated how poorly it's designed that they scream and rage quit as the team sit back and laugh at him struggling.
Блять, заебало все, я не могу больше. Все, хватит.
All of this is fucking nothing though compared to the utterly baffling texture that was discovered in the game's files. A 12-year-old wearing underwear with the words "bad girl" being written on them. What the fuck? I highly doubt this was meant to be used in the game, which only makes it more confusing as evidently this was someone on the team just doing it for themselves, which is extremely questionable. There is literally no defense for this, and I've yet to see anyone on the team even attempt to acknowledge it. I can only assume they're going to desperately try and throw it under the rug as to not draw any more attention to it, but it certainly shows that somebody on that team is a fucking creep. And I don't think Bolt is going to try to do anything about it. He's too busy blocking out anyone who dares criticize his moneymaker. I even noticed the other day that I had been blocked by the guy. I'm going to take a wild guess and say he saw my original video. I really wasn't expecting Sonic Omens to be such a clusterfuck. At most, I assumed it would just remain a subpar fan game with a shitty creator. And most people wouldn't even care, because they can't dare question anything featuring their favorite video game character. Even still, I think all of this is certainly a cautionary tale of what not to do when making a fan game. For example, don't cry like a baby when somebody doesn't like your game, don't try and make money off your game based on an IP that you don't own, don't hire creeps. Should be a pretty big one. But to end off this on a positive note, go check out the actually good Sonic fan games that were made with nothing but passion, such as the recently released Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, Sonic GT, Sonic and the Fallen Star, or even look at something like Freedom Planet and Spark the Electric Jester, with those creators starting off with the base of a Sonic-esque game, but turning it into its own thing through its own unique ideas and designs to stand apart, allowing them to actually make money and profit off their hard work. But either way, goodbye Sonic Omens. I'm happy to see that you can finally fall into obscurity.